Coming up next on Headline Humboldt, as the nation reels from another mass shooting that left some 18 dead and 13 wounded, a Humboldt County supervisor is chided by colleagues for auctioning off a handgun at a county-related function. Also, Councilman G. Fernandez joins us to talk about the state of city government, city finances, and ongoing efforts to address several long-standing issues. Coming up now on Headline Humboldt. From the top of Humboldt Hill, this is Headline Humboldt. I'm James Falk. Thanks for joining us. I'm not sure what to think about the confrontation that unfolded this week at the Board of Supervisors meeting. Just as the country suffered through another mass shooting, one that left many dead and wounded in the state of Maine, one of our own supervisors was chided by colleagues for auctioning off a handgun at a recent function of the Rural County Representatives of California Association. I, like many folks, was raised around guns. I owned a .30-06 when I was barely a teenager and often lugged that heavy, archaic thing out into the wilderness where I tried repeatedly, with no success luckily, to hunt down and kill a black-tailed deer. I am not one who opposes the ownership or use of guns in all cases. People hunt, people target shoot, and people have, over generations, made the firearm an important part of their hobbies and lifestyle. I begrudge no one the right to do so, as long as they don't hurt anyone else and as long as they follow all relevant rules and safety practices. Yet I also think it's absolutely clear that our culture in America has a serious problem with how guns are perceived, how they've become a litmus test for political factions, and with how many people die each year from mass shootings, suicides, and other kinds of gun violence. So while I don't personally know what to think about Supervisor Rex Bone's decision to auction off a Smith & Wesson 9mm handgun while actively representing the county of Humboldt, I do think this is an opportune time to discuss the issue and work on building consensus. So here's the story. At a recent event for Rural County Representatives of California, or RCRC, Supervisor Rex Bone auctioned off a Smith & Wesson 9mm handgun. Each county in the association was asked to provide a basket, and Humboldt County's basket included the gun, among other things. It also came from a local gun dealer. When the issue of representation to RCRC came up at this week's supervisors meeting, Mike Wilson said he'd been contacted by concerned residents about the gun auction and said it was now on social media at a time when it's problematic to be associated with guns.
Yesterday I got a few phone calls at the last RCRC event. There was an auction and that Humboldt County was auctioning off a gun, a firearm. Smith & Wesson pistol, or whatever. And I was just kind of wondering, like, can we have some discussion about that for a second? Because it was someone sent me a Twitter link for it, and it's on Twitter now, and so now people are talking about Humboldt County being purveyors of guns at a time when, you know, the biggest killer of kids is guns. Suicide by gun is on the rise. This is relevant to who we might want to have representing us at this organization. I have feelings about that if it's really the case that we're promoting firearms and the distribution of firearms as what seemed to be like an auction item. It's almost like firearms are not. I feel like we're that as representation in this regard. That's like it's not a party favor, and it's not a door prize, right? It's a firearm. It's for the purposes of killing or shooting people. I mean, that's like generally why they're developed.
Two things on that. Apparently, guns are not the leading cause of death among youth in this country. It's actually motor vehicles, but I think that they are number two. And Bone reacted at first as if the issue were a political attack, but then he offered to remove himself from the RCRC entirely.
God, I feel like a merchant of death. I must sell 60 guns a year at my various auctions, but I feel like a merchant of death because I also donate wine tastings and cases of wine and liquor and promote alcoholism and drunk driving, I guess. This is a perfectly legal item, registered, sold. The basket does come from Humboldt County. I've asked in years past to have supervisors partake. Nobody's really, Michelle helped out with the fishing trip last year. The auctions go to the charities that are chosen by that year's chair. I believe the year I was chair, we brought back $63,000 for 5 charities here in Humboldt County. If you want me to promise I'll never sell another gun, I'll do that. I mean, I try to bring, now this is a rural counties group that may not take the same attitude when they live out rurally on firearms. Firearms are not made, I've never seen one, and I've been a licensed hunter since I was 10 years old. I have never seen or bought a gun because you buy this to kill people. The gun actually got in there because I'd won a gun at a raffle. I didn't want it, traded it in for the pistol, and donated to the basket. And I figured and then we are legally transferring that. He's going to have to do the 10-day waiting period at a licensed firearm dealer. We are going to transfer it. It has to be legally transferred at a licensed FDL. And then it will be his. So it will be a registered gun in his name. He will do the background checks, the 10-day waiting period. We will do everything that is legal to own a firearm. This was not anything I was hidden because I know we put the sign up that said everything that was in the basket. I mean, I did not do anything illegal, nor did I do anything that I think misrepresented Humboldt County, because I do see quite a few stores that sell firearms, and it was gotten at a local firearms store, paid for by me, not the county.
The board ultimately voted to swap out representation to RCRC, reappointing Bone as alternate representative and Supervisor Michelle Bushnell will take the place as primary. One of Humboldt County's beloved population of California condors recently suffered from lead poisoning, requiring treatment at Sequoia Park Zoo. According to the Yurok Tribe, which administers the condor program, along with Redwood National and State Parks, a condor named Minuquek, along with several others, recently fed on a poached elk carcass. In a routine autumn health check, 5 out of 8 condors were found to have concerning levels of lead in their blood, which they believe came from shot in the elk. Minuquek was the only bird whose lead level required treatment for lead poisoning. The bird was treated on site at the program's facility and then transferred to Sequoia Park Zoo, where authorities determined that there were no lead fragments remaining in its digestive tract. Luckily, after completing one round of chelatin therapy, its blood level had decreased to below the treatment threshold, and Minuquek was returned to its flight pen. He will remain in the pen to improve its health before being released, and will also serve as a mentor for incoming birds. Joining us now in studio is Councilman G. Mario Fernandez. He goes by Mario, so I will use Mario. I'm James. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you again.
We've spoken once before,
Yes.
yeah. Thank you for coming down. Real quick, we talked just now about the county gun issue, and I know that it's not anything that you guys are facing anytime soon or have faced in the past recently, but do you have any thoughts that you want to share about gun violence? My daughter goes to Eureka High, and recently we had a scare where there was a lockdown, and I know Mayor Miguel was actually on site
in one of the classrooms, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a whole scary experience. Anything that you want to share from a local perspective about this issue?
I can't speak to that experience personally because I've never had to go through it myself. Actually, in community college once, we had a lockdown at Napa Valley Community College because there was a robbery just down the road, and so we were locked in the classroom for probably about 3 hours. Yeah. But to go through it as a parent, I can't relate to that, and so I can only imagine how that wears on you. Speaking from experience with my partner being a teacher at Winship, hearing about the experience that she had, I think it was maybe earlier this year, and it's unfortunate that these type of events are starting to blend together. Yeah, exactly. But when parents get excited to the point that they're banging and knocking on the doors themselves, I would absolutely ask that they not do that. There's a certain protocol that the schools, that the teachers have to follow to make sure that the students, that your children stay safe in those situations. Yeah. And so I understand the emotional workup that people get from it, but we have those protocols in place to try and keep them safe to the best of our abilities
Yeah,
at
and
that time.
basically you could put your child at risk by going
Yeah.
and trying to get him out early.
Let
or
alone
break the
yourself,
lockdown.
yeah, or everybody else's children. So
Sure.
as much as you want to be there to help, this is not an Uvalde type of situation.
Yeah.
And I hope that we don't have that type of situation here,
Yeah.
particularly in Eureka. Speaking to the experience of the county, I can only imagine that Rex, that Supervisor Bone was coming from a place of thinking, impact versus intent.
Yeah.
Like his intent was to be like, well, we do use firearms in our county, we go hunting in our county, and it absolutely makes sense when you're living in any of these rural counties that are represented. The impact, though, you really do have to take into consideration, and I can understand how he feels that it's political because the Second Amendment is enshrined in the first 10 amendments. It's absolutely number 2. And so that's not something you can say that, well, this isn't political. Well, it is, and that's unfortunate that it's become as divisive as it has.
Yeah.
But again, the impact is there should have been maybe more thought that if this is going to be utilized in terms of hunting, I don't know a lot of folks that use hunting or that use handguns for hunting, unless it's particularly smaller game.
Yeah.
I know it was also put out there by one of the members of the public that there were other firearm baskets or other weapon-focused baskets, but those had to do to some extent with we're going to go hunting for game.
Yeah, yeah.
And so maybe that's the consideration next time, because there's no way you can say like absolutely we can't abolish handguns in rural communities. I forget the name of the locality in Tehama County that isn't receiving sheriff service. It's like, how else are you supposed to protect yourself if something does go immediately wrong and you can't call law enforcement? We have the privilege and luxury of not having that the case here in our county, but I know that there are times where cuts happen, law enforcement, anything can happen, and I don't want that to be the case where it's like I have to take it upon myself to protect my family.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been looking forward to this conversation this week because I find you very interesting.
Okay.
As a council member, I mean, we were just talking before the show, and you mentioned that you have what's the term for it? Political psychology, is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I studied at San Francisco State.
Which I think is a fascinating degree. It's one you had to build yourself, but I think that could equip someone with a unique skill set for like analyzing the problems of local government and for solving solutions. Finding solutions. Could you possibly share with us how you think that education helps you as a public servant and where it's come to, bear fruit?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, we know that empathy is genetic, but it's also a skill that you can hone, that you can build on. And so I think I have that perspective of at least trying to connect with constituents, connect with residents. The idea is that I want folks to be involved in the process as much as they can be. Having a direct democracy is just too much to weigh. I mean, you're making decisions each and every day now.
Yeah.
That's why you would have this representation, as it were. And I'm grateful that the folks of the 3rd Ward said, yeah, Mario's the best choice for this at that time. And so to look back and think of the courses that I've taken on group conflict or group interactions, conflict and resolution, social psychology, political theory, those kind of things. One of my favorite courses, though, was absolutely on voting behavior and campaigns. Less on the campaigns and how people make those type of decisions, how you develop those heuristics and those mental shortcuts, and being aware of biases. And what's interesting is the more educated you are, potentially the higher your IQ. If you want to go down that route, the more susceptible you are to biases because you're thinking, oh, okay, well, I'm aware, I know what's going on. And it's like, yeah, but have you evaluated that? And so just going down that line and having these conversations with folks, very recently, having the conversation about the fruit vendors that we've been seeing more prevalent in Eureka. Of course, they're of Hispanic descent, Latino descent. And you see that it's not something that's normal in the community, so you get a little apprehensive towards it, especially there's public health issue if they're relieving themselves in the alleyways. But you have to turn it to the human side of things where you're thinking like these people are likely being trafficked from out of the area, belongings taken, being put out there and being told like you can come back at the end of the day and depending on how you've solicited funds, we might return your stuff and take you back home. And so it turns into a trafficking issue at that point. And looking at our crime statistics from last year that said 0, for trafficking in particular, you have to take into consideration. It's not any fault of law enforcement not doing their job. But it's like it's one of those things where it's how do you report that, especially in another language? How me, who's largely monolingual, I come up to you and just try and ask you in my broken Spanish as best as I can, are you being trafficked? The answer is going to be no.
Yeah, and especially if it's a person of authority asking, they're like, I don't want to have anything to do with you because I feel like I might be in trouble for even being here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it raises some concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the a place where your degree might come in useful, I think, is that there's been an ongoing debate in the city of Eureka, and it happened in Arcata. It's happened at the Board of Supervisors as well. But public comment has sometimes become a thing, and I know that council members, in particular, at the Eureka City Council meetings, have borne some abuse from members of the public. You were talking about a town hall meeting that you had where people showed up and they basically co-opted a large segment of the meeting just to kind of attack you. What is that about, do you think? And is there more the city should do in order to tame that, wild streak?
Well, I forget which legislative bill recently had said that we can shut down the meeting if there are any threats or perception of violence, anything that might cross those lines. We can shut down the meeting. We have people not taken out. We can have people removed. We can definitely have people removed from that and then continue our business as we need. I really don't want things to go that far, because that's one of the basic tenets right there, is that we have an open meeting for discussion for people to participate. Of course, it's also our opportunity and our diligence to do our business there. So to have people interrupt or do anything of that sort, yeah, it's time, place, and manner type thing. Like, yes, free speech even has those limits to that extent. And so I think Mayor Burgell has done a fantastic job in establishing some decorum. Nobody's been told explicitly, you need to stop that and get out. It's more been like, well, you're kind of bordering something on there that is not quite offensive, but is calling out a singular group or potentially bringing harm to a certain class of people. And I think, at least from where it's been, particularly during the start of COVID, with the public comment, things have gotten better. I know about the recent bombings, or Zoom bombings, that we've heard about in other municipalities, but we've been very fortunate. We've been fortunate, even though things have gotten heated during the open public comment, where it's like, I'm here, I can comment on anything that isn't on the agenda. But it does feel at times that particularly the women on our council get singled out. And very much so Mayor Burgell, even though I can't speak to her devotion personally, but seeing how much she genuinely gives back to this community. Born and raised here, she's done a lot, and I think she's doing her best. That being said, I'm going to have my detractors, and that's just, I think any council person is. Absolutely. Any politician is, for that matter, any elected official. And so it's just one of those things where you have to roll with it. Going back to the town hall that I held back in May, there were folks there who were just like, this is very much our time, and we're going to take it and use it up and say that we don't like you based on these reasons. We think you're an anarchist. We think you're dismantling the very things and tenets of this community and this system that we like. And it's like, I disagree with you. I'm going to agree with you on some of these tenets, and we're going to move forward. Oh, but we're going to keep talking. Well, you can't do that because there are other people here for a very specific town hall. If you'd like to make that time with me to deride me even more in private or in public, we can absolutely do that. And unfortunately, nobody's reached out to say otherwise. And so
which makes you think, what is their real purpose? Are they trying to engage with you, or are they just trying to dominate the conversation?
Well, it's that it's that kind of cathartic release too, and unfortunately it can also develop into this feedback loop of like, I got to say all that emasculating stuff or personality destroying stuff to that person. I feel good about it and I should do it again. And it's like, but should you? It's like, I understand where you're feeling or where you're coming from in your emotion and your thought. But is this your best self? I mean, this is something we ask of kids in the classroom. Are you being your best? And if you feel that you are, then maybe we need to have a conversation about that. But if you're recognizing that you're not, then what can you do? What can we do to make it better?
How do you? I would find it hard not to react with anger, and you guys haven't. That I've seen. So, how hard is that to kind of keep yourself from engaging in that way?
I mean, that's why I play video games first and foremost. There has to be an outlet, but really, it's kind of remembering that human element for me. Everybody's going to have their own approach to it. I can't speak to the other council members. I think they compose themselves very, very. In a very dignified way. Granted, there was one instance, and we don't have to get into that because I'd rather not replay it. But even then, the council member apologized, and I believe that they were genuine about it, because there's no way they would have done it so immediately afterward if they didn't mean it. But barring that, it's again remembering that this is coming from someplace in their thought, in their emotion, in their logic, and it's like, so there is an element that has to be true to them, and I'm not there to mitigate that. Like, that's how you're going to feel, that's true and that's valid. Where and how it's developed, that's where we can take some discussion. And there have been times where they've made public comment. It's like, absolutely, we should consider that. Someone saying that we should have cops on bicycles in Old Town. It's like, yeah, I can see how that would work. And have we discussed that?
Yeah.
So I'd like to see that discussed.
Yeah. I think the mistake is that if they, a lot of times people feel like if they're coming from a certain place politically, you're never going to pay any attention to what they have to say. And in local government, that's just not true. I mean, from what I've seen in all the councils that I've ever sat on, there may have been 1 or 2 council members who had their mind made up on stuff based on the people they were dealing with, but most of the time they're just trying to find consensus and get through whatever problem is in front of them.
Well, and that's the idea, is that you have these conversations so that way you can find those solutions. I mean, when it comes to, for instance, and I think this is something that we barely touched on just before the program, is the parking lot housing initiative.
Yeah.
Of course, I very much disagree with that because we do need housing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I were going to be so adamant to say this should have no place, why did I approve for it to go on our ballot then?
Yeah.
I still have the way that I'm going to feel fundamentally about things, about issues.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I can't grow from that place or change my mind about certain tenets.
Yeah.
The only thing I disagree with very fundamentally is the supporters saying that the primary is a general election.
Yeah.
Fundamentally disagree with that, coming from not only the place of the Elections Code or the Secretary of State's website, but also our very own Registrar of Voters, who says it is not a general election.
Yeah, well then there's a suit following on that,
Yeah.
from what I understand, and this is one of several suits that's involving this whole maneuver. I mean, we talk about the group behind it. I mean, and largely it seems like it's sponsored by Rob Arkley and friends of his. I mean, Michael Munson was on the show, and he basically agreed that that's where the money is coming from on this thing. What do you? Can you sort of encapsulate for us? There was talk about grant monies being lost if this goes through. Can you explain for us where that grant money comes from and why it would be lost if the project switched like that?
To the best of my knowledge, and I may be wrong on some of this,
Okay.
is just that I believe a lot of that grant money is going to come from the state or from the federal government, because we're talking about well, it wouldn't be grant money if it's tax breaks, but a lot of those would be lost too if these
Yeah.
projects don't go through.
Yeah.
And then of course, if we don't meet our RENA numbers and the state saying you're not making a good faith effort, what it comes down to is the state saying like, well, we're going to impose a builder's remedy at this point. So not only have we lost grant money, now we've also lost the right to figure out how we want to expend or build upon any of our surplus properties.
Yeah, so local control's out the window. at
It's
that
out the
point.
window,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's not me trying to demagogue or create any fear. That is the reality. There is an issue, or there is a particular element called the builder's remedy.
Yeah.
And that's where the state says and approves who gets to build.
Wow. And people around here wouldn't like that.
Right.
I have a sense. It's
Yeah, well,
it's like a
coming from
feeling.
that perspective, so I don't know if they're intentionally trying to push that route, because I just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, as is proven by the whole idea of the primary versus the general election, a lot of this seems like it might be sort of whimsical in like someone had wants to push their particular project for whatever reason. We've got 5 minutes left.
Okay.
To broaden it out a little bit, I mean, you've been on council for about a year now.
Yep.
What surprised you coming into council? You didn't have as steep a learning curve as some would because you were on the school board.
Yes.
The Eureka City School Board. But so can you talk about what surprised you coming in and where you see that there might be efficiencies that could be improved, or if there are none?
I think right now council's actually operating pretty well. There are times where we've disagreed, but the fact that we still have that general respect towards each other has been fantastic. What I did think was interesting, though, for about the first 4 months, the public comment was pretty tame, and then it went from almost a 2 to an 11 on a scale of 10 there.
Wow.
And again, that's, we're still coming out of the pandemic. We're still coming out of people having been isolated, so on and so forth. That I feel at least we're returning to some semblance of routine and respect from public comment. Going into how staff and council interact, I was a bit, I can say to some extent, a bit surprised that we don't have a level of independence that generally everybody thinks that elected officials have. Like, I can just go in there and tell staff, like, this is what you're
I'm the
doing.
big man on top, or whatever.
Yeah, right. I've only been here 12 days. You've been here 12 years, or even much longer than me, and that's just not the reality. And so the idea is that, yes, it is bureaucratic, but they are the experts in a lot of ways. But what you can come to us with is those ideas that we can help flesh out and further. And again, just as I alluded to earlier, very recently had a meeting with some constituents about the restrictions on historical housing, trying to build around that. And that's grounded in state law. It's not something we get to work on locally, except maybe in terms of advocacy at the state level, but try and nuance and help you get those loans or anything to help pay for those fixes that you need. And then, educating people, of course, on vendoring licenses, those type of things. And that's really what I like to take away. It is amazing, and it is, I think, on staff almost wholly that we have a near balanced budget and that little bit of a surplus. And again, I'm coming into this like midway. It's like, here's our budget, and it's like, oh, wow. I can't say that I had a lot to do with this, but I'd like to take the credit for it. But I'm not that kind of person. It's like, oh, wow, staff did fantastic on that. And, it is going to be a bit more difficult as we're looking at inflation right now. I don't know if we're going to be able to replicate that next year, but at least knowing that staff is capable of doing it at this time when things are still tight gives me hope and sets that foundation of, you did it once, can we do it again? And absolutely we need to, as we're headed into,
And you look around and other local governments aren't as lucky. I mean, the county has $17 million in the red or whatever it is. I mean, it's a lot of debt and a lot of issues because of, whether it's not quite a recession that we've all found ourselves in or what. One of the things that I've noticed over the past couple of years is that the city of Eureka seems to be taking on what were traditionally county responsibilities, and they've been effective at doing it. I mean, like CSET and the various teams that interact with the homeless and mental health. And do you have any thoughts about the roles of city and county versus county government? I mean, how should you guys think about that when you're trying to parse out responsibilities?
I mean, I would hope that we would always take the perspective of we can do what we can, or we will do what we can as best as we can locally. Like, of course, we have our own police department, so that means that we're going to have to operate to some extent an alternative to that general or that historical policing model, which is getting out there and talking to the people who are what's the phrase I'm looking for here? Not historically underrepresented, but the people that have generally been left out, the homeless, the mentally ill, and there's a great cross-section between.
I guess,
the marginalized there. And so, that's upon us to take on that type of program. When it comes to the homeless, we're going to do the best that we can to offer those type of services, especially with emergency shelters as we're headed into
the cold season. And people might die if they are out too late and or out too long.
And I think we started that a bit late, this year when it should have been implemented last year. And so that's on us. And I think we're doing our best diligence right now because we are asking for volunteers to help staff some of those, or at least help get those marginalized folks into those places when the cold season snaps.
We are done. We have 30 more seconds, so thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'll have you back on if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Check-in conversations, and you can share with us anything that you think is important.
All right, I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next week. Stay tuned. Stay informed.